I didn't know T-Mitch was on this podcast.
You got T-Mitch. T-Mitch here.
T-Mitch on drums.
Queen. I like Ghostbusters and other films.
Other movies. I like Back to the Future.
My name is Tyler Dale Mitchell. I like Ghostbusters and other films.
I like Back to the Future and other movies.
All right. So, should we just get into the show?
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's fuck this pig.
You know what, gang? I was just thinking about how we're all just top-notch history boys. I am Chris Whedon, A1.com history boy.
I'm Tyler Armentrout, HistoryBoiz.com/boys. I was dealing with Chris's thing.
Yeah, keep it going.
I mean, I'm Zach Meck, and I'm also a history boy. I was also a C average student in school.
Me too.
So there's that, and
I
now
was too.
And now we talk to you guys about history. So that's your fault.
Yeah, you guys biffed that one.
I am Jerry Nash, and I am original flavor history boy.
Oh.
We're talking classic.
How about that?
Yeah.
I like how every time I say my name, I have no plans about what's going to come out of my mouth. It just happens.
What does an original flavor history boy taste like?
Tastes like dairy.
It's like a Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
It's like an
Original recipe.
original Coca-Cola. You know, there's the whole
It's
new Coke,
Yeah,
old
that whole
Coke.
thing.
You know,
Crystal
that-
Pepsi.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jerry. I've tasted you before, and you just taste like anxiety and sweat.
Yeah, that's accurate. That's more accurate.
That's right.
I think
You
the
can
real
convince
question.
yourself it's cola.
The real question is: would you be edible to the subject of today's episode?
Probably.
Which, as we all know, is New Coke.
Yeah.
See, back in the 80s. Sorry, Jerry. Who, and why are we talking about?
And why is it Crystal Pepsi?
Welcome to Pepsi Podcast.
Pepsi
Man!
No, today we're talking about Tarrare, the man who ate everything. Now, I've heard it pronounced a couple of different ways. I think it just kind of depends on where you're from. I've heard it pronounced Tarrare and Tarrare. I'm going to go with Tarrare. That's just kind of the way that seems most natural, so that's what I'm going to go with.
Plus, it sounds like something a dinosaur would say.
Sure.
Or Scene Kid back in 2005.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
You guys don't remember MySpace?
Yeah.
I remember MySpace
In a
vaguely.
vague,
Yeah.
gin-fueled sort of way.
Tarrare is the only name we have for this French peasant born in 1772 who had an insatiable appetite that couldn't be quelled.
So he was eating pussy and ass.
All right, brother.
Jesus.
I was going to ask if he also had the appetite for destruction.
Ooh. Yes. Turns out.
You're welcome.
Destroyed his parents' bank account. I like that peasants in, 1700s France would have a bank account.
Yeah, right.
They're like Sacre Bleu, my Bank of France account. I wanted to say Bank of America.
Sacre Bleu.
Sacre Bleu.
I like
Yeah.
how you didn't even get the fake French term correct.
Sacre Bleu.
I only speak freedom.
Yeah.
Despite this appetite, though, Tarrare was a wisp of a man, weighing only about 100 pounds.
I'm bigger than that.
Yeah, like his whole life. His mouth was abnormally large, with very thin lips and really stained teeth. He was able to fit his mouth with a dozen eggs, or even several apples all at once. So what it would do is he would like unhinge his jaw and then stuff it full of eggs or apples or whatever, and like over time it like stretched out his cheeks, so when there was nothing in there he had like permanent jowls.
Do you think that he would be prime real estate for Joe Exotic as one of Joe Exotic's multiple husbands, because he'd be able to fit all of their penises in his mouth at once?
Whoa!
I was just thinking, is the character Gaston from Beauty and the Beast but based on this guy? Because he ate 4 dozen eggs.
Yeah, every single day.
And he was French.
Yeah.
Gaston.
But he was also a beautiful man.
Yeah, that's true.
They changed some things up.
They justified it.
In 1700s France, it was actually known to be very attractive to have giant, disgusting jowls hanging off your face.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like a skill set for TV and a face for radio.
Now, when he ate copious amounts of food, his stomach would bulge, leaving some to describe it looking like a pregnant belly when it was full. Now, when it wasn't full, his skin would hang and sag, so much so that he could wrap his skin around his waist, like all the way around.
At least he didn't have to wear a belt.
Yeah.
Just tie it
And
off.
He could sling his hips back and forth, and it would sling around, and the children would ride on it around the French village that he lived in.
He can also do that thing that chicks do, like when they tie their shirt in a knot in front of them.
Yeah, right.
You know, so he can just do that with his skin when he gets too hot.
Didn't Will Smith's daughter write a song about this? Watch my jowls. I wave my jowls back and forth.
Yeah.
Yes, accurate.
That was a Willow Smith song.
Willow Smith.
Willow Jowls Smith, I believe, is her stage name.
Now, Tarrare was born in Lyon in 1772 and was one of several children. Now, the lifestyle at the time for a French peasant would have been a very difficult one. Working, long hours in the fields to feed your family. The last thing some poor peasants would need is a son that couldn't seem to get enough food.
So what do they do?
Well, as a young boy, Tarrare could eat far more than any of his other siblings, and was even reported to eat as much as a quarter of an entire cow in a 24-hour period. Now, for those counting, that's 100 pounds of meat, or somewhere around there.
I could do that.
So, again, this makes me think of a King of the Hill reference, where Bobby has to eat that steak because he was dating that vegetarian girl. Yeah. And she happens to be at the steakhouse, and so he eats that big steak under an hour.
There's several times in that show where Bobby himself sits back and unbuttons his pants and goes, ugh, as he's eating a lot.
I don't know about you guys, but I've done that, and it's the most satisfying feeling in the world.
I do that
It's
all
pretty
the time.
good. It's I mean, I don't know. It's like it's like a pre-shit,
Yeah. And then I put my hand down the front of my pants like Al Bundy.
Al Bundy.
I almost said Ted Bundy.
I almost thought Ted Bundy. Do you think Ted Bundy relaxed and put his hand down his pants after he murdered those women?
Yeah, but his hands are down his pants for a different reason.
Oh.
Jesus.
Well, it certainly wasn't for masturbation because he had already relieved himself sexually into their corpses, so...
God. This is going to be a gross one, folks. That's your trigger warning.
That's without the cannibalism, or not cannibalism, the necrophilia.
Now, his poor parents simply couldn't support a child with such a voracious appetite. So, they kicked him out of the house.
As you do with children that are hungry.
Can't feed him.
Get out of here, you piece of shit.
Well, I mean, like, I think at first, you're like, this person's clearly very hungry, we're not doing a very good job, but then after a while you're like, he just keeps going. And you can't stop it.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So Tarrare went out on his own. He started to kind of go from village to village begging for food. But soon, he joined up with a ragtag group of thieves, prostitutes, and snake oil salesmen where he could take his act of eating extreme amounts of food on the road.
I like these guys.
Do you think Cher got the idea for Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves from this story?
Yeah.
Oh, I do think she got the idea for Believe from him, but it was originally Do You Believe in Lunch After Lunch?
Second breakfast.
Right? Also, I thought when you were like, and he teamed up with a group of ... I thought it was going to be like other dudes who like to eat tons of food.
No, here's with some roustabouts and some knaves and brigands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the hacker, they got like the engineer, they got the guy who could eat 1 million pounds of beef, they got the chick.
Yep.
She's a race car driver.
So when he made it to Paris in 1788, at the age of 16, he began roaming the streets, eating whatever he could get his hands on. Food scraps, rotting trash, rats, and even cats, oftentimes whole.
The Eiffel Tower.
That didn't exist yet.
Do you remember there was a previous episode where I was talking about wondering what cat tastes like, and I asked on Reddit, and they didn't want to answer it.
Yeah.
I should ask this guy, you know?
Yeah.
Who's still alive.
Yeah.
He's eaten
Also-
his fair share amount, I'm sure.
He ate cats and rats. Do you think he ever ate any cats with a rat in them?
Ooh.
Oh, like a turducken-style situation?
Yeah, because the cat eats a rat,
Yeah.
then he eats the cat.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
That makes perfect sense to me.
And it actually makes sense because they're actually together in his stomach.
Yeah.
Like whole.
Yeah, he swallowed them whole, and then the
Oh.
cat ate the rat inside the stomach.
Or better yet, he ate a rat first, and the rat was like, oh no, I'm doomed. And then he ate a cat after that, and the cat was like, oh, cool food down here. And the rat's like, what the fuck, man? Again?
He got 8 toys.
Jesus. Now, during such binges, people started to, like, gather around him, you know, and he would kind of do his act on the street, too. And they would pass him more and more challenging things to eat. You know, they would give him whole chickens, rocks, dirt, sand, watches, silverware, anything they could think of.
So because he ate rocks, do you think he started to sound like Tom Waits?
Do you think he could eat a Buick?
If you took it apart, yeah.
Probably make him Buick. That's a Ren and Stimpy joke.
Zing.
Still,
Nice.
that's great.
I think that they're like, eat this, no, eat this. And there's always some guy with his dick out, like, yeah, put this in your mouth. And he's like, it was worth a try.
Yeah.
Again, Joe Exotic, man.
He would just eat that guy whole, though.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And I bet
Yes.
you there's some people, well, there are some people who are very into that sexually. They're like, eat me whole, start with my feet, you fucking knave. Yeah.
You mean a vor fetish?
Like the King of France at the time.
Yeah.
So he kind of became semi-famous in Paris as the man who could eat anything. Once he collapsed, though, mid-performance, and the onlookers took him to the hospital. And it was like an internal blockage, surprise,
Weird.
surprise, probably from all the crazy shit he's been eating. But the doctor was really curious about his condition, and he asked him about it, and Tarrare proudly replied that he was a performer and that he could prove his talent and eat the doctor's pocket watch and then, you know, shit it out and produce it back to him. And the doctor said that he could only eat his pocket watch if he would allow him to cut it out of him afterwards. So he did no such thing.
I thought he was going to be like,
fair
I'm a
enough.
performer, watch me eat these 12 Matchbox cars.
20 Matchbox cars.
Yeah.
Now, when Tarrare would defecate from all this food, it was usually an especially foul diarrhea.
Ah, the Reetsies.
Yeah.
The diarrhea. His skin was hot to the touch, and he would sweat profusely, especially when he was hungry.
Is he also drinking a lot when he's eating all this food? Because that seems like real textbook hangover diarrhea. Based off people I've talked to, not me personally, but it's not an illness. It's more of a sickness brought on by what you're putting in the day before. A lot of ways. From what I've heard from other people, not personally.
So what I'm hearing from you is that basically Tarrare has been having nothing but Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Day in and day out.
He's having worse than Taco Bell.
Oh, no,
it's
rainier. It's rainier the day before, and then pizza right before bed, like a whole pizza, like a large, the bigger the better, and then Taco Bell the next morning. Like as soon as Uber Eats is going to bring you that Taco Bell, you're gonna get that going.
And Tarrare also smelled terrible. Some even said that he had visible stench vapors emanating from him, like in cartoons, like the green stench vapors.
Yeah. Right.
It's where stink lines came from.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to, but this was 1700 France.
I know.
Don't you think everyone was smelling pretty fucking bad?
Even for the time, he was especially smelly to even those people.
So bad.
Sacre blurb.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't know you spoke French so well.
I'm a bit of a connoisseur.
Yeah.
I've studied abroad or two.
Nice.
Got him.
Zing, zing, zing.
Somebody kill me now.
People would try to not stand downwind from him. Tarrare was in Paris during the French Revolution during this time, although it's hard to tell if he ever took part. But in 1792, it was basically as the king was being deposed, the rest of Europe looked at each other, and they got together and they decided that they were going to carve up France for themselves. Because France, for a really long time, was like this really powerful bully in the schoolyard. And as soon as they, all the monarchies saw it getting weaker and this revolution breaking out, they're like, hey, remember what France took from us? Let's take it back. And so all of Europe pretty much declared war on France. And a couple of days later, the king had his head cut off. And so was the army of the French Republic. But it was called the War of the First Coalition. And there would be a second coalition, all these things to basically chop France up.
Did Tarrare eat the king's head when it got chopped up?
History is silent on that.
I was going to say that Tarrare was really excited when he heard that they were going to carve up France because he was like, oh, smaller pieces for me to eat.
It's like, ooh.
Do you think that the French would have used Tarrare as chemical warfare?
Oh, we'll get to how they used him. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. The way they used him.
Definitely not sexually.
Yeah.
Because he smelled too bad.
Now, the powers against France, they sort of fought with loose alliances and loose coordination because everyone had their eye on their own part. So at times they'd fight each other and then fight France, and it was kind of a mess. It was just everybody was involved. It was kind of just a bad time and place in Europe.
It was obvious that Prussia wanted the Monster area of France because that's where Monster Energy drink comes from, and you can't have Monster unless it's from the Monster Energy drink
region of
area.
France.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just sparkling energy drink. It's not even the same thing.
Exactly.
So seeing the military service as a guarantee of a steady food supply, Tarrare signed up with the French Revolutionary Army. Considering his condition, though, Tarrare saw no combat, and he was usually regulated to menial tasks in the military camps.
And don't put him in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Now, the other soldiers, however, were also struck by his talent, and they fed him all sorts of things as well, like, eat this, eat this. And his rations had to be the quadruple of the amount of a normal soldier. But not even that would satiate his hunger.
Okay, so now he's just being greedy.
No, we'll get into why he couldn't ever satiate his hunger. But it wasn't out of greed or anything.
Now I'm gonna eat a bullet. And they're like, eat some bullets, Tarrare. And he's like, load it into a gun. And they're like, good one, Tarrare. And he's like, I'm fucking serious, man. I can't do this anymore. I need to eat a bullet. I need to eat a hot piece of lead right now because this is out of control. I'm not happy. I'm not I
How
smell,
could you be?
I have diarrhea, and I can't stop eating.
He would still have to go and find trash from, like, dung heaps and stuff. And, like, fight dogs for trash. Yeah.
There's no way this is by choice.
No, so come on, how could it be?
Nobody's even watching him.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Tarrare was taken again to the hospital. He was suffering from exhaustion. And it was here that he met Dr. Pierre-Francois Percy, the one that would take a special interest in Tarrare's condition. And he was kind of, I guess you would call him a primary care physician of the time. He was a military, like, field doctor that happened to be the one that was interested in him, basically.
He was also the winner of the most French name award 7 years in a row.
Oh, we got another one coming for you here in a second.
I can't wait.
Now, even with the increased hospital rations, Tarrare was stealing rations from other patients and eating bandages and all sorts of things. And Dr. Percy, he would test the eating limits of Tarrare by feeding him live cats, puppies, lizards, snakes, and even a live eel. And what he had to do with the eel is he put it in his mouth and he crushed its head with his jaws first and then swallowed it whole. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a snake skeleton or an eel skeleton before.
Yeah.
Could you imagine passing something like that?
Yeah, I was wondering, like,
jeez.
how he's passing rocks and stuff.
It's got to be painful. I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
He had a butthole as wide as his mouth.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say his butthole must be a mess.
Yeah, fisting was probably first base for him.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine if there was belt-fed bullets at the time? Like, if he was able to just eat that and then shit them out? And
Dun,
people-
dun, 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 dun.
Dude, just
You,
a
like, put him in the
one-man
middle.
machine gun. Exactly, it'd be great.
Tarrare would drink the blood and eat the flesh of animals, leaving only the skeleton. Like, when he'd eat like a cat, he would eat the flesh and everything from it and just leave the skeleton. And then later he would cough up like hairballs, like a cat, or like owl pellets.
Christ.
He would cough up these, like the fur again.
I don't have it. That's insane.
That's fucking disgusting.
It gets better, guys.
He's just
Strap
like,
in.
what's his react? Like, is he like ta-da? Like, you know, like.
I think it was just, again, I don't think he wanted to be this way, or he
life
wanted
was a
to do
living
any
hell.
of this.
Yeah, was he like, no,
Yeah.
no, no, it's happening again?
I
You
just
know?
think when somebody like handed him food and called it food and said, "Here, eat this, it's food," he would just be so ravenous that he would
He's
just,
probably starving.
yeah, he was always starving.
So, do you think that he would take the modest proposal seriously? The modest proposal is that the Irish satire piece.
That's right.
Yeah, the Jonathan Swift thing about eating the poor people.
No, eating babies.
Oh,
Eating
yeah, that's
dead
what it
babies.
is.
Right,
Yes.
right.
You're thinking the dead Kennedys, and that's kill the poor.
Which is also badass. Now, months of testing would soon gain the attention of the higher ranks of the military. General Alexander de Beauharnais visited Tarrare wanting to see a demonstration. That's very French.
He was like, I'm gonna have so many pan sauces named after me.
I believe that's how Beauharnais, I believe, is how it's pronounced.
gonna
I
try.
believe.
That's the most French name since French Pete.
Fun fact about this guy, he was actually executed by guillotine during the Reign of Terror, during the French Revolution, and his widow married Napoleon Bonaparte and became Empress of France.
Huh.
So,
For a minute.
Little claim to fame there.
It's kind of a weird little...
Wait, does that mean that she also got syphilis and went crazy?
Oh yeah, big time.
story for a different day.
I mean, who do you think gave it to him?
So they, the general and his men, they brought an entire wheelbarrow full of raw cow viscera, where they watched in amazement and in horror as Tarrare devoured all of it. The whole thing,
geez.
right in front of him.
Just like organ meat and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, dude, it couldn't have been.
In a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, it could have been like fresh or good or anything like that.
Oh, it'd been
So, like, they didn't even provide him with, like, a vessel, like a baguette or a tortilla or something?
Or like some A1 sauce. No.
Was it organic though?
Well, yeah.
I mean,
I guess
obviously it's
technically.
organic.
Yeah, everything was. That's why it's so fucking gross.
They didn't even have like a salt shaker for him.
No.
You just eat the salt shaker.
The blood has a lot of salt in it, you know?
Yeah. He's like, it's not margarita night. I got this.
The only thing on hand was stale ground pepper.
Right. So, the general hatched a plan. Tarrare would swallow a small wooden box with a message inside, go behind the Prussian enemy line, and deliver said message to a captured French colonel.
This is a great idea.
Yeah.
Only
It's the real story.
Hey, Tarrare, come here. I need to take a look at your hole. This box can go through it, right? Yeah, all right. So
No, they did test it out. He goes, I want to see it work first. So they
he
made him
passed
swallow.
it twice?
He's past worse things.
He's past worse things, for sure.
He's like a box. That's rookie shit.
So please tell me that this box, when you open it up, it had a dancing ballerina and like it just had like the music going around.
Oh no. I'd like to think the first time he passed it, he put a bunch of scorpions inside and he was like,
Don't open it.
yeah. He's like, I bet I can pass these scorpions without getting stung.
So, Tarrare became a French spy. He swallowed a wooden box
The
with a message
stinky
inside.
spy.
Yeah. He dressed as a Prussian peasant, and moved quietly into the Prussian countryside. But the plan was inherently flawed. Because there's two things to consider here. This is a man that reeks to high heaven,
Yeah.
constantly digging around in the trash looking for food, and dude doesn't speak German. So he was captured immediately.
Yeah. Who's this gross, stinky guy speaking French, digging in the trash?
Yeah, we found this French guy smells like shit. He claims to be German. But he claims to be German in French.
Yeah. Yeah, like a Prussian peasant tried speaking to him, and he just like tried to ignore him. He's like, oh no, and like tried to like get away. But like, again, like he was reported immediately and like they captured him.
It's like no me gusta or whatever, you know?
I want to see the montage where they have to teach him how to speak German and act German, you know?
Yeah, and at first they're like, teaching him how to speak German and he's getting it wrong, and then by the end he's just,
Take it to the limit.
I was gonna make a reference to the Holocaust. That's
don't
not
do
all
that.
Germans known for. That's not all they're known for. By the
And
end of the
it's before
montage, yeah. By the
Didn't
end of the
help,
montage, he's making chocolate and skiing
We do come from the land of chocolate.
and being just as anti-Semitic as the rest of the world during that period of time.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Which is still
that is true.
running pretty high.
It's pretty bad, but it's not Nazi bad. Not yet.
Well, they just weren't worked up yet, you know?
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
Their
they'll
money,
get
an-
their money
They
was
didn't
still
have an
worth
angry
something.
Austrian there, so
Yeah, right. So Tarrare was beaten and flogged to give up the information about his secret mission. But surprisingly, he didn't tell him anything. He actually kept his mouth shut.
Understand them.
Yeah, he doesn't speak German.
I'm sure there were some French speakers there.
It'd be weird if there wasn't.
Yeah.
They were like, when we're done with you, you're going to eat your words. And he's like, I'm going to eat a bunch of stuff. I don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah.
I really hope that the only thing that he would tell the Prussians was "Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?"
Which they would not have understood.
Right. Exactly. But that was his only response.
Yeah. It wasn't until they began really torturing him in earnest did he give up his secret. The Prussians chained him to an outhouse and waited for the box to pass. And he probably ate the poopy as well. Because Tarrare was hungry, and he probably did it, man.
I like ate the poopy.
Just
That was written in the outline. I thought it was funny.
It is in there, yeah. It says verbatim.
Just
where he
stop
probably ate the poopy
everything,
as well.
dude. Like, I can't.
He's hungry.
Yeah.
You ever been hungry? You ate things you wish you didn't?
I've been hungry.
God damn it! Just the word "eat the poopy" makes me think of those the very anti-LGBTQ African pastor.
Oh yeah,
Oh, that guy.
They eat the poo poo.
Yeah. I don't know where those like anti-LGBTQ people get that from. It's such a weird
Just
thing, you know.
They went to a different Pornhub than everybody else, I guess.
Yeah.
Run by the Germans.
You'd think that they'd be okay with that. Being in that outhouse.
So turns out, though, the French general did not have a whole lot of faith in Tarrare. It turns out it was just a test message that asked the colonel to reply if he had received the message, just to see if it worked. So it didn't say anything.
so
There was going to be a third box.
Yeah. Maybe multiple boxes if it kept working.
The message just said, "Gotcha, sucker."
Right?
He just stunk too bad. They had to get him out of there.
And there was nobody being like, I wonder if he can ship all these condoms full of coke.
Yeah. So Tarrare was beaten again, and even put through a mock trial execution. Like, they put the rope around his neck, and they were going to hang him, and they decided not to at the last second.
Because the rope was actually his stomach just wrapped around his neck and then tied around the post.
It was probably like a psychological thing. The people in this era kind of did that. That happened to Dostoevsky when he went to the prisons in Siberia. Anyway, that's a story for a different day.
That's how I feel whenever I read Dostoevsky, because they're so long.
So good. So
It's
good.
sad.
No, so good. Crime and Punishment is one of the best books I've ever read. You should read it. Don't be intimidated by it. It's great. So, the Prussians themselves, they also couldn't afford to keep him around with his appetite. So, they sent the gross man back into French lines. Just, get out of here.
Do you think he ate that piece of hangman's noose like a piece of spaghetti?
He slurped it up.
Just hoping that there's a babe that likes to eat a bunch of stuff on the other end so it can be a Lady in the Tramp style scenario.
Yeah. And there was. But she was as disgusting as he
Skank
was.
on the other end, you might say?
Yeah. That goes without saying.
God. So because of the torture that he endured in the Prussian prison, he was really no longer capable of any sort of military service when he returned.
They trashed his legs. Like Charlie Murphy.
Yeah.
He's walking on his shins.
So Tarrare went back to the care of the only person who really gave any sort of fuck about him, Dr. Percy, where he tried to find a cure or even a cause or something for his condition. They tried a diet of soft-boiled eggs. They tried vinegar. They tried tobacco pills, laudanum, opiates. They tried everything, and nothing worked.
Speaking of earlier, did they try cocaine? Because that
I
usually
think-
kills my appetite completely.
I think that was the opium that they tried. I'm sure he appreciated the opium, but it didn't bring.
they-
Give me more of that opium.
Yeah, give me more of that opium. It makes it easier for me to eat this large pizza because I can't feel it.
So soon Tarrare was back to his old tricks of leaving the hospital by night and scavenging for trash and stray dogs and cats and discarded slaughterhouse remnants.
Dogs.
Yeah.
By the way, this podcast is brought to you by Arby's.
Is anyone hungry?
Honestly, I'm a little bit hungry, and Arby's does sound good.
Yeah, let's hear from our sponsor, Arby's.
Yeah. So once he was caught drinking the blood of patients that were undergoing bloodletting in the hospital. Which
He was
is
a thirsty boy.
Yeah.
So,
That's gross.
There's so
I'm
much
not a
wrong with that
vampire.
sentence.
I'm just not picky.
He ate the leeches off of patients.
Tarrare even resorted to the hospital's morgue, eating the dead bodies several times.
That's so fucking gross.
Yeah. Straight up cannibalistic, you
We need a
know.
warning label on this episode.
This one. I'm telling you, like, this is the grossest episode that we've ever done.
So, do you think that when he was caught eating the dead, like he had part of a foot in his mouth, like literally, like getting done, like chomping down on a leg? Tarrare, you know.
That's
No,
our
the-
Tarrare.
You should see the other guy.
Tarrare just sounds like the backstory for Alf.
Yeah, kind of.
If it was only cats.
Yeah. Now, the hospital staff thought Tarrare was mentally insane, and they wanted to lock him up in an asylum. But Dr. Percy could find no such mental ailments in Tarrare, even calling his personality bland. The dude wasn't crazy. He was just extremely hungry all the time.
Yeah. His one character trait is that he eats a lot.
That's it, because he couldn't focus on anything else. He couldn't do anything else really with his life except eat. That's all he could really do.
Sounds
You know,
like
think
living
of
hell.
if you were hungry all the time. Could you
Can
focus on
imagine
anything
going
else?
on a first date with Tarrare?
Oh God!
Well, just like how stinky he is, the fact that, you know, he wants to go to the Golden Corral because it's the cheapest buffet that he can find.
He eats the whole thing.
And all he wants to do is just talk about how hungry he is the entire time.
And he stinks real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that didn't help.
So Dr. Percy insisted that Tarrare was of sound mind, and tried everything he could to cure Tarrare. But unfortunately, everyone has their breaking point. Soon, a 14-month-old child suddenly went missing from the hospital, and all eyes turned to Tarrare, and then they chased him from the hospital.
Oh, they're gonna cut him open.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
So he, like, disappeared into the city, and history kind of goes silent on him for about 4 years, until 1798, when Dr. Percy received a letter from a Dr. Tessier in Versailles, in the Versailles hospital, saying that there was a man on his deathbed asking to see him.
So how old was he at this point in time?
He's 26.
He's on his deathbed at 26.
Yes.
Well, I mean, considering the circumstances.
Yeah.
A lot of city miles.
Yeah.
I'm gonna blame it on the 14-month-old child who was probably kicking and screaming the entire way he was going down.
Well,
Well-
that was four years ago.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
he disappears for like 4 years and resurfaces in a Versailles hospital.
Well, he did
Well, he
eat
was
a
working
kid.
on his presidential campaign.
Do you think he
So when-
actually ate that kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, honestly.
Can you imagine shitting out a skull?
That is so dark.
It's very dark. It's very, very dark. In a month's time from Dr. Percy arriving, Tarrare passed away at the age of 26. Tarrare's...
So from old age.
Yeah. It wasn't from any of this stuff. Tarrare's body started to decompose very quickly, and Dr. Tessier was curious enough to want to perform an autopsy on Tarrare's body, wondering what was different about his organs from a normal person's organs. He was also curious to see if there really was a gold fork stuck in there. But Tarrare's body stunk so bad that the rest of the surgeons refused to take part in the autopsy. So at once, Dr. Tessier noticed that if he opened Tarrare's mouth and looked inside, he could see all the way down his throat into his stomach. You see all the way down in there.
Because you can unhinge his jaw.
Well, that and his
Like a
esophagus. His esophagus had expanded as well.
From so many tires and bagels.
It's like reverse gape.
Oh, God.
Again, a vor fetish.
Oh, God. Whew.
I've seen some stuff online.
Documentaries, one might say.
Yeah. His liver and gallbladder were abnormally large, but his stomach was huge, filling most of the abdominal cavity, and it was covered in ulcers.
Oof.
Isn't that shocking?
Yeah.
More like the abominable cavity, am I right,
There you go.
Nice.
boys? Thank you.
Sounds like a stomach for radio, if you ask me.
All of his internal organs were covered and full of pus. And it stank so horribly that Dr. Tessier couldn't finish the autopsy, and the gold fork, unfortunately, was never found.
Okay, so where's he buried at so that I can dig him up and find that gold
I
fork?
need that gold fork.
We don't know. Probably a mass grave. And
There might be clues in Dr. Tessier's Def Comedy Jam set where he was like, have you ever seen those round the way stomachs? They stink. They need to wash their ass.
I couldn't imagine like cutting someone open and like everything's all messed up, yeah, but there's just pus in and around everything.
I love how that's the one thing that you're like, I couldn't imagine cutting somebody up and there's just a bunch of pus everywhere.
That is super
That's
gross.
But
so
you
gross.
can cut up somebody?
When I
So
cut
gross.
somebody up, I want it to be clean meats.
Yeah, you're right. I could never do any of that.
I'm going to be honest, that pus thing, to me, is probably the grossest thing in this whole episode.
It's so nasty.
And I thought they
This
smelled
reminds-
bad on the outside.
Yes, may the 4th be with you too. By the way, we're recording this on May 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May the Schwartz be with you.
And you've made that Han Solo joke before.
No.
I'll make it again.
Yeah, it's a callback now. So the crazy thing about this story, though, is that around the same time, in Poland, another man was suffering from a very similar condition. This man was named Charles Damery, and he was a little younger than Tarrare, being born in 1778.
They were brothers.
I would argue that this is Dahmer's great grandfather removed.
Sure.
Yep.
Dahmery.
He ate people.
Sometimes he was called Dameritz.
A little Dahmeritzi.
And Damarizzi.
No. It was like a Germanicized.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey Dahmer, anyway.
Yeah. So Charles came from a family of 9 brothers, whom he said had the same condition he did. Like they ate a lot. All of them did, including his father. But differing.
They ate his father?
No, that they all could eat a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, sorry.
And yes, he did eat his father.
But differing from Tarrare, Charles Dommery looked like a healthy person for his build and size. Like, he looked normal. You know what I mean?
How do you
Just
smell?
regular hungry dude.
Yeah. He would eat voraciously and then wake up in hot sweats until he could eat again. And he never vomited after eating. Like, he would just eat a lot. So oddly enough, though, at the age of 13, Dommery joined up with the Prussian army in the War of the First Coalition, where he amazed his fellow soldiers with his bizarre eating habits as well.
Oh, okay.
So does every army get one?
In this time, I guess. He told them that he once ate 174 cats in a single year.
I like that he was keeping track.
Yeah, right?
So do we know if he said cats or did he actually say pussy?
He said cats.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Oh.
Yeah. However, the Prussian rations weren't enough for Dommery either. So he defected to the French side, where they too were amazed at his eating prowess.
I was just gonna say, well, the reason why he defected to the French army is because they put 2 cats in the ration instead of 1.
Now, he preferred his meat raw, and his favorite dish was raw bull liver.
Delicious.
That's disgusting.
See, it's really unfortunate because they could have done, like a 13 going on 30, little, what's that movie where the 2 girls, like, swap places, trading places? Parent Trap, yeah, they could have done a total Parent Trap.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm a spy, you're a spy, you're working for the other guys. We both eat so much.
We walk alike, we talk alike, we eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat.
13 going on 30.
Yeah.
They trap their parents so they can eat them.
Yeah, Parent Trap situation. Dommery served on a French naval vessel called the Hoche, where he was caught eating the severed leg of a fellow crewman during a firefight.
Jesus.
Yeah, like a guy got his leg blown off. Yeah, no, you did. I didn't want to give it away just yet, but yeah, a guy got his leg blown off and he was like caught like eating it.
Perfect.
It's like taking cover, eating somebody's leg.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that he was rock hard when he was eating it.
That was the worst part?
Yeah.
He's eating a man's leg.
They caught him eating it though and like took the leg from him and tossed it overboard.
Dommery!
The guy was like, you could have reattached it.
Leg.
But it has bite marks in it.
That must have been so embarrassing.
Yeah. So the British eventually captured the Hoche, and Dommery went to a prison camp near Liverpool. Now here, several doctors and the prison's commander would experiment with Dommery's appetite. He was woken up at 4 a.m., fed 4 pounds of raw cow's udder, which was eaten without hesitation.
I mean, that's some cow titty right there. So.
Then he was woken again at 9:30 a.m., where he was given 5 pounds of raw beef, 12 tallow candles, which is 1 pound of candles, and a bottle of porter to wash it all down with.
Why the candles, though?
I think it's just what they had.
They're like, here's some candles.
Do you think it was to, like, solidify the shit so it wouldn't be the Reetsies?
No, I think it's made out of tallow, so I think it's edible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it was because it was for ambiance. They were like, bring it in for romance, and then they're like, oh, he ate that too. Well,
Dommery's he's like, hey, you guys, you gonna eat those candles? And he's like,
Yeah.
if you don't want them, I'll eat them.
They want to see if he could get lit up inside. Like
Are those lavender scented? Because I love lavender.
yeah. It might help with the stink.
Dommery didn't stink as much as Tarrare, did he?
He probably smelled.
Didn't smell good.
But better.
So at 1 p.m. then, he was given yet another 5 pounds of raw beef, another 1 pound of candles, and this time 3 bottles of porter to wash it down with. He ate all of it without once shitting, pissing, or vomiting. At 6:15 p.m., at the end of the experiment, his pulse remained steady and his temperature did not change. In fact, he danced around and smoked his tobacco pipe drunk as fuck. From all the porter.
I mean, this sounds like me at the rendezvous.
You did eat all those candles.
And all that raw beef. And it's gross.
Obviously.
These guys are
out in the alley the
guys
entire
are
time.
chock full of parasites. Just chock full of parasites. There's no way.
So after this, though, we don't know what happened to Charles Dahmer. He disappears from history after this point. But it's weird that there are 2 people with very similar conditions that lived around the same time.
Yeah, that is very strange.
So many have speculated as to what was wrong with Tarrare and or Dahmer. Everything from diabetes to parasites have been suggested. Some have speculated that the 2 men suffered from pica, a disorder that causes people to want to eat inedible foods like dirt, rocks, and paint chips and things like that. But pica usually comes along with other mental disorders as well, and both men were otherwise mentally stable. Another thing with pica, it couldn't have been pica because both men were trying to eat sustenance. They weren't just eating rocks to eat rocks.
Is pica a mental illness, though?
It is. It is a mental illness.
This seemed purely physical.
It is mental. A mental illness. But it's where, you have a craving for things that are not edible.
Right.
Like rocks and paint chips and things like that. But they were just eating those things because,
They needed it.
So my understanding is that pica is like those people that are on My Strange Addiction.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, some of those people, yeah, for sure.
I just want to see the commercial that has Wilford Brimley being like, I got diabetes, and that's why I ate this cat and this baby and 45 lavender candles,
Now, the most likely scenario, there's a lot of them, but the most likely scenario is that in Europe at this time, smallpox was an epidemic, and people would catch smallpox almost annually, which is something I did not know. And smallpox has been known to cause damage to the hypothalamus part of the brain. And this part of the hypothalamus, it regulates thirst, hunger, and your body temperature. And both men, were always thirsty, always hungry. They were hot to the touch, and they sweat a lot. So, they're thinking if early on in their life, and actually Charles Dahmer had a confirmed case of smallpox when he was a child, that maybe Tarrare also had a case of smallpox that damaged his hypothalamus from a very young age. Because he had always had it ever since he could remember. But what it does is it gives you another sort of disorder called polyphagia, which is an excessive appetite. And what polyphagia does is when you feel full and your body has this natural reflex to vomit up if you've eaten way too much. And competitive eaters try to get around that and condition their body to sort of get around this. But with polyphagia, you don't have it, and it's sometimes from damage to the hypothalamus.
Guys, I think I might have polyphagia.
You? Yeah, big time.
I like snacks.
Now, it could be any of these things. It could be none of these. It could be a combination of several things. Both of them certainly had some parasites. I mean, come on. I think that's unavoidable.
I still think that they both had fucking tapeworms inside them.
Yeah.
They probably did.
a little cheat sheet, a little enhancer for the sport, you know?
Yeah, but with the tapeworm, it doesn't get rid of the reflex your body has to puke up the excessive amounts of food that you've had.
Yeah. Well, one probably caused the other, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a perfect storm of shit being wrong with your eating situation.
Well, I think when you just eat everything, you're probably going to get parasites.
Yeah. And especially like rotting food.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that it's the parents' fault for not going into tech and making a lot of money so that, you know, this little boy could actually have good food.
That's what I always say about peasants in the the 1800s is why didn't they go into tech?
Yeah.
Why didn't they pay their lord more money so they could the lord could provide more, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, why couldn't they pay Jeff Bezos more money? You see, I'm not completely. I said again, I'm a C student.
But the plain and simple fact is, we can't know for sure, and we don't know for sure, because they're dead, and we can't do any sort of tests at all.
Well, so thank God that there's nobody like them anymore.
I don't know if there is anyone quite like Tarrare or Charles Dommery existing today. If there is, let me know at HistoryBoizPodcast@gmail.com.
I just want to shout out, to our sponsors, the KFC Famous Bowl, only available in the United States of America.
Yeah, and I don't.
Jerry,
I don't
that story
know.
was super gross.
It's very gross. It's very gross.
Disgusting.
Again, I guess you guys are right. That is grosser than eating out a girl on her period.
You just got to get over it because,
God, you guys.
The thing is, that might not be the most, enjoyable experience, but, my wife, she goes down on me when I'm on my period, so I don't understand what the issue is.
Oh, it tastes like a penny.
Yeah. Once a month I have a hot red slurry that comes out the tip of my penis, and,
Jesus Christ.
That's because you forgot to shoot up your mercury.
Well,
yeah, directly into the tip of your dick.
It is what it is, man. There's gagging from me and gagging from her, but at the end, we both cry and we hold each other, and that's, that's what love's about.
As long as you're both satisfied.
No, that's what marriage is all about.
Yeah. There's a lot of crying and gagging, and you hold each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we all know a little too much about Tyler's marriage now.
All of that was true.
Yeah. All that was 100% true.
And the piping hot slurry.
God.
And this is why you're going to be a dad.
Yeah.
That's where babies come from.
That comes from the piping white slurry.
Yeah.
Jesus. Can't wait for your kid to listen to this episode.
He will, really early on.
Oh.
As soon as he learns to speak.
Yeah. Here's History Boys. It's for children.
Yeah. Here's the reason why you're never going to be able to get into politics.
It's education.
Well, gang, that was a gross story, but
Yeah.
are we the History Boys?
Turns out we are.
I'm Christopher Wheaton, History Boy.
I'm Tyler Armentrout, History Boy Extraordinaire.
Ooh.
Again, Zach Mack, C student, history boy. Just hanging out. It's fine.
And I am Jerry Nash, History Boy. And thank you so much for listening, as always. And don't forget to follow us on all the social medias out there. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you want to just reach out and say hello, there have been a couple of people that have reached out and just said hello. I think that's great. Sometimes people want like a call out. Sometimes people don't. I think we're only going to really do that if people explicitly want to be called out, right, guys?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Give us your feedback, give us your shout outs, and if you want to call if you want to shout out, just say you want to shout out.
So I just want to shout out one guy that did want a shout out. Taryn, thank you so much, Taryn, for listening.
It's Tehran because
Let's Taryn, Tehran, whatever it. We're of course butchering it, butchering his name.
This is exactly what he wanted right now.
He's like, can you butcher my name on your show?
Yeah, it's like, of course I can. Thank all of you so much. We read all of your emails. We always love hearing from you. Again, thank you all so much. Did I say what our email address is?
Yeah.
I'll say it again. Our email address is historyboyspodcast@gmail.com. Reach out anytime, or if you have any suggestions. We always love hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And Zach, I just want to say, I was a C student too, and you don't see me bragging about it.
I always knew that we would get along.
Because I didn't do homework.
Samesies. I was too busy. I can't say that. Nope, I can't say that either.
They were like,
I was always a C student.
there you go.
All right.
All
Zach,
right.
do the thing.
Yeah. Love you. Bye.
It's really all the same thing. We had a lot of fun. We'll see you next time. Or I guess we won't, whatever.